All right, we're starting the broadcast. Why would I be playing a soul station today? Some sort of tribute to the Purple Rain. Did you guys know Prince passed away?
What?
Prince is gone. It broke about an hour ago, so we got the Pandora station playing. Childhood gone, no? 57. Apparently he had an emergency stop with his airplane about a week ago. He had some flu-like symptoms and that type of thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but Prince is gone. So everybody go home tonight, play your version of Purple Rain. And then known as Prince again. Yeah. After the dispute with Sony was over with. Yeah. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to. It's not a downer. It's a celebration of life. If somebody passes, you just gotta say it's okay. Yeah. Everybody dies. Everybody poops. You know. It's kind of a just a factual thing. My name is Joel K. Smith. I am from SL Circle as well as Accelerant, and we're going to be presenting next week for World Opportunity. Kind of fun. I've had the good fortune of knowing this fellow for a couple of years now. If you look up, is it Gay Christmas? You look up Gay Christmas in your image file, he and a bunch of his buddies in red Speedos and caps. Yeah. Was that at the University of Arizona?
I usually don't announce that publicly, to be honest, but that was because I'm off college.
Yes. Well, I think it's one of the most fantastic things in the world. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah. We were number one for about a decade, Google image search, and now we're about number 10.
So if you guys ever want to run a river or do something exciting or understand hydrology and what's important about water and fuel sustainability, this is your guy. Pretty fantastic.
Feels easy.
Yep, and then we got Margaret and TEDx, a number of different things. And why don't you go ahead? Because I can say glowing things about him, but I know you do that.
So yeah, I've been involved with a number of TEDx events, TedXSaltLakeCity, TEDx Westminster, and now Pat and I joined forces and have started a new venture, Two Voice, and he'll talk a little bit about his presenting and communication background as well. But it's a place where we found to take the skills and the gifts and the talents and the ideas from TED Talks and bring them to everybody.
Well, without more to do, our camera angle is right about here to here. I'm going to do a check on you guys real quick. You're both in it perfectly.
How far can we move?
You can move. Come over here a little bit. Yeah, you're good.
We need a dot.
Your dot's actually in the corner of this. We're
Okay.
fine. So if you try to touch my cookies, forward you can go as far forward as you want to. It's wide open. So with that, I present Margaret Romney and Pat Crowley and Purge from Your Memories, the reference to that Christmas. Go.
That's how I'm picturing all of you right now. That's strategy. Thank you very much. We're here with True Voice, a relatively new endeavor that Margaret and I have embarked upon. We teach communication essentially. So we do workshops for big speaking events as well as businesses coming in and teaching communication, effective communication, team building skills, as well as more deeper elements of that, true mission finding your calling, essentially, really defining that and defining how everyone in an organization can buy into that or is directly connected. So it's been a lot of fun so far. We've done a couple of events and we have a lot on the schedule. So before we get too much into that, I just want to give a little bit of background about myself, and then I'll let Margaret give her background. But I have, Joel referenced a little bit of a former life of a water scientist, an agricultural water specialist, as well as a whitewater rafting guide. That was my passion, and it was just figuring out how we can use less water, or how we can present our children with a more sustainable water future. It's also instructor for National Outdoor Leadership School. We take mostly college students on wilderness expeditions. We teach them team building, leadership, communication skills. We also do that for all of the national astronauts before they go on a mission. They have to come on one of our courses. They can be the most brilliant scientists in the world, but they can't function together as a team. The mission is useless. So from that, started Chapul, with that same long-term vision of water resources. So Chapul, we're introducing insects into Western cuisine to healthy, sustainable protein. And that took me to, and that was all because of the water efficiency of insects. That took me on a national stage as far as our food and water resource are concerned. Took that to, we were presented on Shark Tank, which was a really fun event. And then from there, just been getting more of a national and international platform to speak about the future of our food and the future of our water resources. On a personal side, I'm really getting into storytelling. So we have a local event here called The Feed, a storytelling event. To really enjoy getting up there and crafting an artistic presentation and mixing clock around with the events. And I'm using that as artistic expression as well. And so True Voice here is a culmination of all of that experience as far as communicating my past experience about what is effective communication style, where is that message coming from, and how to define that. So that's probably too much about me. But Margaret, introduce herself.
Thanks. So my original background, my professional training was actually as a cellist. I'm a musician. And after years of teaching and growing and playing and having my students grow, I decided I wanted to expand too. So and I love words and communication and writing. So I'm in the middle of a Master's of Strategic Communication at Westminster, and then the speaker coach at TedXSaltLakeCity and at TEDx Westminster, where I also just spoke. So if you look at this culmination of experience, like cello and water and Shark Tank and cricket bars, it sounds like it's like kind of crazy all over the map, but I think that what we just figured out is that we're both really into growth and change. And I think a lot of people see that today we all want there to be growth and change in the world, in ourselves, in our companies, with the environment, with our future. And we see that there's so often the moment of change is between individual people. It's when there's a person in front of another person giving their idea, selling their pitch, exchanging information. And so that's what we really specialize in, is this moment-to-moment, face-to-face communication bit. And so that's why we started True Voice, and we can bring in our expertise from TEDx Salt Lake City, where Pat was also a speaker, and Westminster, and the storytelling, which to this, this one moment and that happens is really such a crucial element of so many interactions. So that's True Voice, and that's where we come from, and that's why, so the joke, the cellist, cricket, rubber rafter, walk into a bar, and what comes out? Okay, True Voice, that's what comes out. So that's who we are, and that's why we're here. So do you want to talk more about your experience with TEDx Salt Lake City?
Sure. Yeah. So I was a speaker a year and a half ago now at TEDx Salt Lake City, and just kind of pertinent timing. The application is now open if you would like to be a speaker at TEDx Salt Lake City for this year, this summer. It's been getting better and better every year. I think this will be its fourth year.
Yeah.
Fourth year. Just the level of presentations are really increasing, and as well as the level of just production. So it's a really cool event. Whether you're interested in being a speaker, whether you're interested in attending it, I highly suggest looking into that. But I was a speaker a year and a half ago at the event, and that was my first TEDx talk that I gave. Very pivotal as far as I'd already been on television and I'd already given lots of talks, but TEDx is a unique event where you have 15 minutes or less to give your talk, the most pertinent thing that you want to spread to the world. And the mission or the statement of TEDx is ideas worth spreading. So what is your individual idea that you want to spread to the world? And so the honor to be asked to spread that. And so just it kind of took everything I've been doing and really focused on kind of my passion in life. What do I want to express to the world, not only on the stage, but elsewhere. And then last year, Margaret and I teamed up to be the speakers workshop, run the speakers workshop and be the speaker coaches for all of the TEDx speakers. Did anyone see any of TedXSaltLakeCity? So Margaret and I ran the workshop to groom all the speakers to get ready for the main stage and work with them to be able to present an effective format. There's a lot there's a deep science behind it. It's not just about telling the story start to finish. There's a lot of subtle aspects to it as far as preparation for it and how you can effectively communicate a message without any words. Whether it's body language, whether it's voice inflection, it's just moving around the plot line, if you will. So it's been fascinating history, and that was kind of our first workshop that we did was last year. We had a couple of speakers that have given talks from the TED stage. They've gotten a lot out of our workshop that they haven't gotten from the TED stage workshops. To be able to have somebody tell a story from point A, point B, point C, I think was a really resounding take-home message. And then most recently, we did another event. One of the speakers again was a National Geographic speaker. It was about 30 to 40 talks a year, and also said we got a lot out of our workshop that he hadn't gotten from any of the National Geographic workshops. So that was our most recent event. Margaret will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So TEDx Westminster College SLC just happened, and I think that one of the great things we saw that was happening in that we could like connect the dots for what we were doing is a lot of team building. So at any TEDx event, which by the way is different from TED conferences, TEDx events are locally run events, but there's such a variety of people. At some of the events, there's a teenager talking about sex ed. There's a lawyer talking about estate planning. There's a neurologist talking about cancer, like this huge variety of backgrounds and ages and disciplines and all coming together. And what we found consistently through our workshops is all of these people sharing their stories, learning how to tell their stories, learning out who they are, and being okay feeling that vulnerability of telling their stories really created a unique bond between all of them. Both the TEDx crew and the TEDx Westminster crew just knew that they were there for each other for support. And so that's another thing that we can do in our workshop is let's tell your story. What's the story of your business? What's the story of your company? Who are the individual people in it? And what's their part of it? What's their story in the business? And doing a lot of community building that way. So that was the experience of TEDx Westminster. I have to add, you're being really shy because Pat didn't say that he actually, on Shark Tank when he was there before, he got a deal with Mark Cuban. Yeah. And he also spoke at 2 other TEDx events after TEDx Salt Lake City, TEDx Jackson and TEDx Swola.
Netherlands.
Yes. Yeah. So I just have, I'm next pretty cool. So I say that. Yeah, so that's kind of where we've been, what we're doing. And so we have a workshop coming up.
Yep.
On April 21st. And we're going to take, so how many of you have seen TED Talks? May. Exact April. May. Here we are. You got it. Excuse me, in a month. May. Somebody, what's your favorite TED Talk? Oh, that's too hard. One that you really remember.
I like these 80 cuttings, your body language shapes your work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Anyone else? A favorite?
There's I can't remember who it is, but he's talking about drought and that our approach to national parks might be the complete opposite of what's actually needed, and that bringing livestock in to national parks could actually bring them back.
Fascinating. I love those ideas that just turn what you believe on their head. You're like, what? Anybody else? Favorite or
I
anything?
can't remember names. There's so many, but There's a new joke planting gardens in South Central Los Angeles.
You met him.
Ron Finn.
Funny to meet him.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing. So.
Yeah.
I love that
I mean,
one.
that's one of the recent ones that I really.
So moving.
I love the TED Talks, but my girlfriend's got a 6-year-old boy and I found her TED Talks. And I showed him the one that college at 7 and it blew his mind. So
Cool.
I love this stuff.
Awesome. There's also up in Park City, they run, it's TEDx Park City Youth. And so it's kids on the stage, which, you know, how powerful for a kid to have confidence to get up on the stage and give like their idea. I love what they're doing with Reaching Out. That's fantastic. One more, anyone?
A few years ago, I ordered you guys' book, the science of happiness.
Oh, yep. Read it. Can you read it? No, I don't know.
You know what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
exactly.
Google says dead Gilbert.
Yes. Yes.
Alan Savoy did the certification.
Awesome. Cool. So anyway, we've all been moved, or there's something that's like sticks with you. And so what we've done, there's some like sort of rules from TED and some other things that we've learned after being through a number of TEDx events that we wanted to share with you. And that's going to be the topic of our workshop on the 21st. But I'll give you one of them today. So the idea is show us the water you swim in, which is kind of difficult because you're in the water, you know, like show us the air you breathe. And what I find with speakers over and over and over is when they are giving a talk or they're giving a pitch, because I work with investors, with startups who are looking for investor money as well, they want to show the edge. They're like, oh, there's this really cool thing we're about to do. Or there's this idea we have, or this place we want to go, instead of what do you do every day? What is at your heart? What is at your core? What is the thing that actually might seem boring to you that you do day in and day out? And then oftentimes that process needs reflection from somebody else. You need somebody else to see you and see what you do and say, oh, you do this over and over and over. There was one guy I worked with, his name was Joel Hunt, and he still is a doctor for the homeless. He ran the 4th Street Clinic, and he started street medicine. When he was working downtown at the clinic, he saw people coming through the office through the clinic to get care, but none of them were like the typical stereotypical like homeless person that you think of with, you know, kind of the big beard and dirty. He's like, where are those people? Where are the people that I see on the streets? Why aren't they coming to the office? So he started street medicine. He started just like walking the streets, and he would just talk to people, and he would have conversations with them and relationships, to the point where he's like, oh yeah, this one guy, he had a cut on his leg last week. Let's go visit him. I've had friends who go on drives with him, and he would, you know, go and knock on this guy's dumpster, knock, knock, knock. Oh, hey, and the person would hug him. Joel would jump in the dumpster with the guy, redress the wound. So he's doing this work that's just incredible and really so heartfelt. And when he was giving his TED Talk, he's like, I don't know what I do. And he started talking, his first iterations of his talk were about how the world of medicine should be integrated more with these other things. It was just like these high level ideas. It wasn't, I get into the dumpsters with the people. Like, he's like, but of course I do. I'm like, oh my gosh, Joel, that is what you have to tell us. You have, like, what is going through your mind? What is going through your heart? What was that like the first time you did it? Is this what you thought you would do when you were little? How did you get here to this point where you're walking down the street and people literally come out from, you know, the shadows to meet you because they trust you? How did you get there? And he's like, I don't know, I just did it. So it took some time for him to like understand his own story. But oftentimes that's one of the key things, is show us the heart of what you do. Show us the thing that's so common to you. You do it day after day after day. So, can I do another one?
Yeah.
Or you go for a...
Yeah, so an element of kind of what we're trying to do is in part to address a growing trend in the TEDx, or the TED Talks really embody that for two reasons, I think, as far as communication of ideas and materials. And the first one is just a functional, I think, comment on our attention span, a curated attention span. But we're looking for consumable information in smaller and smaller time frames across the board, education and marketing, even in big talks. Corporations used to hire public speakers to come in and give a 2-hour talk. Well, now if you want to be a public speaker, you better learn how to give a very effective talk in 15 minutes, because that's the growing trend of corporate speaking events. Is they were going to bring in 4 speakers to talk about different topics and not simply just kind of go on for 2 hours. So just that consolidation of information is really important growing trends, whether it's speaking from a stage or whether it's conveying your message for your company. That's something we struggle with in my job all the time. And the second trend, I think, is that these really address is that need to tell your story. So the consumers more and more are looking for kind of a why behind the product, or when they pick up a product and decide to buy it, they're looking at how does this affect the world around me. The one-for-one model is a great example of that, just the growing trend that has. And then on a macro scale, those are small kind of marketplace trends, but then you get invested in general. In the next few decades, it's going to be the largest mass transfer of wealth in human history. $60 trillion in trade hands from one generation to the next. And the generation receiving that money is identified, impact-based, mission-based, rationale being one of the top of where they're going to spend their money, whether it's purchasing a product or as an angel investor or a VC investor. So these trends of people looking kind of like a story behind something are only mounting and increasing. So the more effectively you can convey your story, the better. So that's what this workshop is. These workshops are trying to address is how you can kind of keep up with these mounting trends of consolidating your information, really effectively telling a compelling story behind that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one question in the back of it.
It's just your voice matches the white voice in the back of the room.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We're missing 2 out of 3 words.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Duke, do you want me to translate? You probably don't. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Interpretive dance.
Well, that's a good segue into some of the other things that we're trying to teach in our workshops. We want every pitch it has to have the 3 C's. Anyone know what the 3 C's of a pitch are? Kind of standard: clear, concise, and compelling. So whether you're pitching to an investor, whether you're pitching a book deal, whether you're talking to your consumer, it has to be a very clear message. It has to be very concise. Part of that growing trend of deteriorating attention spans, and then it has to be compelling. So clear is a challenge, but I would say that's probably the easiest one. We can be clear, but people will tune out if it's not immediate. And then we can be clear, but it may not drive that call to action that we really want. We want the investor to pitch to invest in us. We want the consumer to purchase our product. We want somebody to select our service. So effectively doing that in a clear, concise, and compelling messaging pertains to several different avenues. So one is just the overall content of your message. So we spend a lot of time on content of talks and presentations, but there was a study that came out that talked about the effectiveness of what you say and how that is received by your audience. And it broke down the top 3 things that you do and how effective they are at conveying your message. So there was the content, John was talking about. There was and this is verbal communication. And there was the voice inflection. So if you're just talking, people will tune out no matter what you're saying. So the kind of the voice inflection, highlighting things that are really exciting. Yeah, something really impactful to say that matches the white noise in the back. Did you catch that? And then the third is your body language, and that's Amy Cuddy's TED Talk is a perfect example of that. But in breaking that down, the percentages of what is most effective, that body language is 70% of what somebody, how somebody's going to receive your message or not. Are they going to remember what you said? And so a big part of that is, are you being a reliable presenter of information? And if you present yourself in a way that's not very confident, your audience is not very confident in what you're saying. You're not going to be effective to it. So we spent a bit of time on body language, just like Amy Cuddy talks about your power poses before. For those of you that don't know this TED Talk, it's a brilliant talk about, we know there's a relationship between your confidence and your body language that's fairly well known. And we've always thought it was a cause and effect relationship, but she kind of spins that around and says, if you present body language that reflects confidence, open body, not closed, not touching your face, if you actively do that for a certain amount of time, it actually changes your brain chemistry to the point where you are more. And so she kind of reverses this. So her suggestion is, before you go to a job interview, you practice some of these big power poses, and you start changing your brain chemistry based on your physical presence, as opposed to somebody that has excellent body position, is a confident person. So we work on some of that to convey an effective message, physical as well as the artistic side of voice inflection and whatnot, as well as the content of what you're actually saying.
One other idea for you that kind of combines both of these, the content and the emotional impact of body language, that we like to talk about, is that Aristotle came up with 3 things that every great talk needs. And I don't remember the Greek words exactly, so I'll just translate. So English, it's the facts, logic, your credibility, and the emotion of it. And there was Carmine Gallo did an analysis of a few of his favorite and most TED Talks, and found that really they only had about 10% of, they're only comprised about 10% of facts. And about 15% was credibility. Here I am, here's why you should listen to me, here's my expertise in this topic, and the rest was all emotion. It was stories. It was stories to back up the other things. So if you're going into a pitch or you're communicating and you're lining up all the reasons why you need to buy my product, because it costs less, because it's better, you're going to lose your audience unless you give them stories or an emotional reason to connect to you as well. You really need all 3. And so I think that with our workshops, we try to do, it's a combination of all of those, with the content, making sure you've got your ducks in line with your facts, but then how to emotionally connect to with stories and with body language and with presenting like that. So, so we mentioned we've got our workshop in a month on May 21st, and where we're combining these. And then we also can do workshops with individual groups, or even families with storytelling, or like within your own business. Like we mentioned, who are you? What's your story? Why? What's your why? What's the thing that's pulling the audience into you, into your product, into your company? So
Yeah. And then another application of that I'm personally really excited about, we're doing communicating science as well. For a long time, I worked as a water resource planner. Actually had a foundation for the National Science Foundation to go in and present water science to schools. And I had to do it for kindergartners all the way up to AP high school classes. So figuring out how to convey science to the audience that you're speaking to is quite a science in and of itself. And we lose people a lot, whether you hear it all the time, somebody has this business that's a medical device, pitching to an investor that is not from that field. And you just lose people when you can't convey the science of it. So we're really, truly understanding the science of what we're doing means that you can convey it to a kindergartner, because at that point you're conveying, why does this matter to you? Which is essentially what we have to do in any audience. We have at Chapul, my company, we have this higher level view of our agricultural resources and the future of our food supply, the future of our water supply. When I went on the Shark Tank, none of that really came out in the talk. I had to figure out what was pertinent to the sharks as investors and how was I going to convey that message and do it in a way that was good television as well. So it's a separate issue, separate part of my consciousness in that pitch. But we're really excited about that because conveying science to a non-scientific audience or even a scientific audience definitely has some skills associated with it that we're pretty excited to share. Yeah. Anything else you want to go over? Yeah.
I'll be glad to start the Q&A.
All right.
What is the biggest Mongolian cluster fetch that you've seen happen in your years of doing TED Talks, which is a live event and everything else? What is the situation or scenario that had you the most on edge?
I know my answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was last Saturday. So I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, because True Voice supported all the speakers at TEDx Westminster, individual calls, emails, helping them craft their message, giving workshops, giving run-throughs, and I put my hat in the ring to be a speaker as well, which I thought, I don't know if my idea is really that great, but I did. So I was both a speaker of the day and kind of the mama bear for everybody else that day. And my thought leading up to that is this will be fine. This will be fine. This will be so fine as long as nothing goes wrong. Because first I'll speak, I'll give everything I have, then I'll be on this high, and then I can support everybody. Well, if anything can go wrong, it will. And can you hear me in the back now? Is that good? Okay. And so I was first of the day. I walk on stage. I'm a musician, so I speak and play cello. I should have brought my cello today. That would have been fun. So I walk on stage. I do my thing, and after I'm about 4 sentences into it, all of a sudden I hear my voice come back to me through the audience, meaning there was no sound recorded up to that point. So the point of these TED Talks is partially the live audience, but really what you want also is that video afterwards. Like, you can share it, this is who I am, this is my idea, and there was just dead silence for the first 20 whole seconds. And so I just kept going, gave it my all. It was a great audience, it was beautiful. And I walked off stage, everybody said, congratulations, that's the best. And then they were like, and we have to do the whole thing again. Yes. I was like, can I overdub? Can I just do? And they're like, no, the best way you have to do this is the whole thing again. So I gave the first talk of the day and was there and watched the speakers for the rest of the day. And then they excused part of the audience that needed to leave. And I gave the last talk of the day, which was really tiring. So for me, that was and both of those had 2 starts. Like, both of them, like when I first went out on the stage, something was wrong with the mic, I got called off. And so I gave the beginning of my talk 4 times. And so which is actually common. Like, people I've talked to who've gone to actual TED conferences, there's technical glitches all the time. People have to start out. So, but it was quite unique to be on that side of it. So that was my moment.
Was the rest of the day better, or did you lose the rest?
That's a great question, and I got mixed feedback on that. There was some people, I just texted everybody I knew and felt like, please come fill this audience. And so people who saw it for the first time thought it was great. People who had seen it numerous times thought that the energy was lower, but some of my other friends said, actually, you were more authentic. Like, you were so tired, you had to pull from, the marrow of your bones, like, this is all I got, guys. So they thought it was, so we'll see. I haven't, seen any of them, but that was an event. So what about you? What's your?
I have 2. One was Shark Tank. You rehearse with the producers over and over and over your little 2-minute pitch, and then it goes into a Q&A. And every single person gets the same feedback. more energy, more energy. They say infomercial energy because why they say that is they say that energy essentially dissipates through the television. And if you've ever seen yourself on TV, it's 100% correct. You'll be talking, you think you're fine, and then you'll watch it, and you don't smile at all. And so you have to have this exuberance and excitement and this energy, and then when you watch it, it just looks normal. So they're constantly giving you that feedback. Side note, there was one point in the talk, somebody said something like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to invest." To Robert Herjavec, he's like, "I'm not going to invest." But if there was ever a spokesperson for insect protein, you're it. And I think I said, I was just so full of adrenaline. I was like, because I can jump high, and I jumped, and in the air, I said, "Okay, I think I'm taking it too far." I was like, scale it back. I was really happy that didn't make the episode. But anyway, you have to have all this energy and excitement, and to begin the episode, you walk down the hall, and then the big wooden doors open, and then you go and you stand on this X, and you have to stand there for 2 minutes in silence while they get the angles of the cameras. There's some 70 different cameras on you, different lights, and so you have to just stand there in silence, just looking at them. And 2 minutes is a long time to do that. And then to be expected to just burst with energy after they're just staring you down. So that was one, and then the second one was my TEDx Salt Lake City was. Yeah, I had a couple issues. I had two. One was my slides just didn't show up, and I powered through it. I was like, I'm giving it a good talk no matter what. And so the slides didn't show up. My slides in front of me didn't show up, and I just kept going through it. And then about 2 minutes into the talk, they popped up. So I was relieved, but I tried not to let on that happened. And then I think this was a 15-minute talk, and about minute 12, this music just started playing in the middle, and
like somebody's Spotify or something, like
put out a
through the
loudspeaker.
roof, the loud, the entire auditorium, beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
Totally random.
So I put it on, and I just started dancing to it. It fit really well into what I was saying for some reason, so I addressed it. But then being able to roll on, there's one piece of little gold nugget that we offer in our workshops and tell you if you ever have a talk that this is a really great exercise to do is write out a cartoon strip. So create 6 boxes of what your talk is from start to finish and draw it. Draw what you're talking about. So in your intro, what are you talking about? In the second piece, what are you talking about? And how each one of those connects in a visual format like that. And then what you can do is you cut those up. You have 6 little squares. You pull them out of a hat and you start talking about what that square is about. Because then you know your content inside and out. No matter what order they come in, you know where it is. And so that really helps you with the flow of information where music can start playing out of the heavens and you'll be able to jump back into where you are in your story and in your timeline because you have this visual aspect of it.
Even a TED Talk on comic strips.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure there's other questions. Go ahead, please.
You mentioned the loss of personality coming through on camera, and
Yeah.
I had that happen to me. We were talking about it earlier here before you all started presenting. And any tips on how to come through better on camera? Because I know that I come through like I am angry at the world. Even if I think I'm smiling and then on camera it's like.
So do you have resting bitch face?
I do. I on camera apparently I've got horrible face. And I had the opportunity to be filmed, the crew pulled me aside and they're like, you look so pissed off.
You see.
I'm not. I'm really not. I'm so happy to be here. They're like, so happy to be here. So any tips?
Literally, they take a camera, think infomercial.
Oh, thanks.
It is so rare when we do our workshops with speakers, we're like, more energy, more. It's so rare that somebody actually gives too much energy. You're almost always on the side of not enough. And so really feeling like you're giving way more than you should be giving to the point where it's awkward is really the only tip I can give you. And then that becomes a little more natural time, but just like, feeling like you're so excited about whatever you're saying. Your face is like radiating. I feel like you're on an infomercial. That's how you feel, but it does not come off that way.
So that's not applicable to people that like are Jimmy Osmond on acid all the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, we haven't had anyone like that yet.
well, maybe I'll do a TED Talk.
Yeah, that might be, different advice.
When you're talking with your clients and you get the feedback that you just look angry and mad, are those moments when you are talking or when you're listening and giving feedback in, or is it both?
Well, actually with my clients, I haven't had that happen, but when I've actually been being filmed and stuff, just either interviews or that type of thing, that's where the crew can be really candid. They're like, you were pissed. But with my clients, like, because we are at least talking back and forth, it helps.
Good.
But occasionally, if I do have to explain something in depth, then they start going, and I don't know, like, do they just need more Red Bull or is it me? It's covered. So in both those areas, I have found that my personality fails to come through.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about something that you are passionate about, whether it's your business or something, you can forget that when your script becomes rehearsed. And so just reminding yourself how truly you are excited about what you're talking about kind of before it, even though you've said these words 1,000 times, you have to physically or very consciously remind yourself that this is something that you're passionate about. You want to share that passion. So kind of flip that switch before you.
Tapping into your own why, tapping into your own story, tapping into imagining, oh my gosh, if this message got brought this much bigger, like one of the, I was working with Derek Kitchen and Moody Sabiedi for their talk in 2014. They were the, long story, if you know, you know. Anyway, when they were talking about their TED Talk, they were like, well, this is what happens to us in our case against Governor Herbert for marriage equality. And I was like, no, that's not what you're talking about. You're not telling us the story of you and your days. You're telling us the story of what can change in the entire world if people speak up for what they believe in. You're telling us how we can change our laws. Like, imagine people took the actions that you took, but what would happen if everybody heard this? What would happen? Like, don't be shy with your message. It's not just about you. It's something that everybody needs to hear. So imagining that, what's the farthest reaching, how far can your message go and who will it change, and bringing that energy into it might help you with that as well. So, yeah.
Other questions? Go ahead.
I was going to ask, is that relatable to, I was in the financial services industry for 15 years, and I if it's somebody that's overly excited about certain things, does that always transfer into everything? Because I can see how that's the case on television, I can see that's the case on certain products, but when it comes to other clients and other industries in the setting, is it know your client, know who your audience is, or is it always, in your perspective, best to always be given that emotion, given that, that passion, that over the top of it? Sometimes it can come off as, distracting.
Yeah.
So, so when we're giving these workshops on presenting, especially with Pat's background in television and seeing so clearly, I've got 3 things I'm telling you. That's a little bit different from actual TED Talks. But if you watch your favorite TED Talks with the sound off, they're not always like jumping around the stage Toastmasters style, but they are speaking from their heart. They are passionate. What they're telling you is from the marrow of their bones. And so I think that if you're in a small room, and especially if you're talking about more things that are more formal, usually, you wouldn't want to put on a circus act. But I think always tapping into your own belief and your own emotion and reflecting that, I don't think that can ever be too much, if it's natural to you. So I think there is a range. And so probably if you're on TV, take that passion that you have and turn up the dial, but speaking from your own heart, from your own message, even if it's in a more formal circumstance. I don't think there can be an example of when that would be not effective or not. Yeah.
Go ahead, Phil.
What do you think of putting jokes in your presentation?
Always. Even if they bomb.
Yes.
Sometimes your content and the question somebody asks just leads you into a humorous comment.
Yeah.
But other times you see people up there, did you hear the one about the doctor that,
Yeah.
and I just cringe.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. I mean,
We had a speaker, Sam, that got up and he speaks from large corporate stages, and his wife tells him, "You are not allowed to tell jokes," because he's just not good at it.
You realize I'm gonna edit that
Yeah.
and bring it up.
And, these are his words. These are his words, so I'm fine telling him. So you kind of have to know your expertise, but hands down, you can add humor to a presentation. It raises the
I think it's
quality.
natural. Like if you're like, okay, a violinist and a pope walking to a bar. I don't know about that. Like if it's effective, or if it's especially from your own experience, or if it's, yeah.
And people, I found people to be more forgiving, audience to be more forgiving about jokes if you're genuine about it, as opposed to just kind of rehearsed joke that you read in a joke book somewhere. Yeah, just a quick anecdote. So that TEDxJacksonHole in the Netherlands, I decided to start the talk with a joke that was a play on the English language to an audience that wasn't necessarily English as their first language. And I was like, this is going to get a laugh.
And this is about he's talking about his cricket company.
Yes.
And that talk.
Yeah, I said, this is going to get a laugh. And it's either going to be from the audience, or when I tell all my friends back home how I bombed on stage, it'll be funny. So I'll get a laugh one way or another. I just might have to sit through a little bit of awkwardness. So it got some giggles. It was like a sex joke pun
Now I have
on the
to
English.
say it.
Yeah, okay, so I said, I'm here to talk about two things that when you put them together are considered taboo. I said eating and sex. And I said it again. I said, and so it's a hot new topic that's spreading across the Western world. And then I flipped on the screen, eating, and the next one was in sex. And then my whole talk was about eating insects. Got a couple of giggles.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
What sort of things have you done in the past that you think have contributed to your own sense of humor, your ability to tell jokes, your ability to feel comfortable with an audience? Besides actually giving talks, is there any other kind of training or experiences or favorite books on that you do?
Being gay Christmas for 10 years.
I think it just comes down to being comfortable. Being comfortable with your audience, being comfortable on stage. And there's plenty of exercises that you can go through to be more comfortable and kind of in your own shoes, in your own skin. And, if humor isn't a part of who you are, I think it can be a little more forced. But if you're able to look at kind of the lighter side of things in life on a regular basis, then just being yourself is, as trite as that sounds, there are some exercises that you can go through to be.
Give us an example of one.
I've got a book, but I can't remember the title. My middle-aged brain is slowly going through its files to find it, but if you talk to me afterward, it's not quite there yet. So I'll get it to you afterwards. It's working on it. But there's a really great one.
Yeah, and we've mentioned it many times now, but it's like Amy Cuddy's talk about power poses. It's not that you're creating this false confidence. You're creating confidence in who you are. So it's confidence in being more comfortable. And so those are just very clear, effective exercises, physical exercises that you can
Power pose.
Yeah.
So that before you give your talk,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then voice exercises. So finding a back room the sound doesn't go up on stage when the other presenters are doing the
My other favorite that's easier, if you can't hold a tune or if you can't figure out an arpeggio, are you, I'm sorry. So if you take your voice and you start go really high, imagine yourself going over a roller coaster, you go, whee! Okay, now you have to all do this with me, so I'm not so embarrassed. Ready? So take your hands, we're gonna go up and down. Take our voice, ready? And we're gonna go, woo. There you go. So then you get your kind of like whole range. And now we're gonna go backwards, right? We're gonna go down and then up. Ready? There you go. Thank you so much. I'm not so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even if you're not comfortable with doing that, it feels silly. And so just
Right.
getting that out of
And
the
then
way.
you kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
This is how you use humor, right?
There, exactly. You get people, yeah, you notice, yeah, you use humor and you see what does land and how, and people love it if you're a little vulnerable too. I think that's not so self-deprecating. Like, I don't think anybody loves, you know, bald jokes or fat jokes, but like, you know, but if you're, you know, just say what's in the moment. Like, okay, we're all a little tired and grumpy, or we're all, you know, like, this is an uncomfortable thing, and saying it, because everybody feels it, even if it's not being spoken. So that's one easy route into humor and warming up and breaking down barriers. But the name of the book is still not there. It's coming. So.
We only have a couple minutes, and I have to excuse Margaret. She has a hard stop to get off. But just finishing, we'll email out our next workshop and the website for True Voice. And if you have any questions that didn't get answered, please feel free to just shoot us an email or whatnot. But thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate the opportunity to come speak.
Thank you.
Where we apply for hydroponics, you have to